Interesting topic, masculinity and feminine energy. And because I know Tony Robbins talks about it too, and not many men even, when you even mention the word feminine,
yeah.
even in gay men, they're like, I'm like, oh shit, just calm down. you know?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just jump right into it. I do have some questions. I guess we'll see how, it flows. And this is something that's really dear for you and me too. So just feel free again to be totally authentic, unapologetic of who you are. Just be your loving and warm self.
I'll be juicy.
I had juicy content. All right, guys. So welcome back to the Crazy Juicy Love podcast. I have my man here, Alan Little, all the way from Chicago, right? You're in Chicago, are you?
Yeah. I'm born in Chicago, but right now I'm actually in Kansas City living here.
Oh, okay. Oh, awesome. This is our second podcast together, so welcome back.
First of the year.
First of the year. Happy New Year again to you too, and to all those out there listening to this podcast. And we have an interesting topic. So I just want to you just introduce this thing, because why did you pick me and to bring this topic? I was just like, oh, and then I'm just gonna let you just drop it.
Yeah.
And what made you pick this? Why was it so hungry on you to talk about?
Yeah, so first off, I'm Alan Little with A Little Motivation. I'm here with a little motivation because a lot of motivation lives within you. So one of the things I really believe in and I really observed is that the conversations we have with each other is very, very important. But the most important conversation we have is one we have with ourselves. Because the conversation we have with the conversations that we have with ourselves acts as a filter of connecting with other human beings. So what really came to me was just there's an imbalance of healthy masculinity, femininity, and just between males and females of all alike. And I just kind of observed this, and I've been doing some reading and everything. And I'm like, man, I am meeting different guys that are in this macho tough guy mode, and that's okay, that's appropriate for that, but all the time, I don't know. We got to be vulnerable sometimes. And then I'll meet different women who are either in this people pleasing, love everybody, give mode without giving to themselves. And it's affecting them on a matter. They're not happy. They're I keep giving, but no one's reciprocating. No one's giving back. And where do these problems stem from? I just had a lot of questions, and I figured that this was masculine, feminine. This is, but in intimate relationships, this is where the most feminine is shown. And I'm like, you're the guy that's the relationship, the juicy, the love, the all of this stuff. And I reached out to you. I'm like, hey man, let's talk about this. Let's have this conversation that needs to be. And
I'm really glad you brought this up, because I a few years ago before I got my certification as a coach, this sort of topic came up. And I don't remember how it came up, but I was gonna do this project. My friend of mine, she was like, hey, let's do this project. Let's do a mini series. You interview different men and you talk about relationships. And I was like, oh, okay. She's gonna produce it at her house. She had a whole crew, and what was coming up was first of all it was gay men, and so we're gonna have gay couples come in, talk about what it is to be a successful couple. And every single couple that I reached out to, either one would do it or the other wouldn't do it. And then everybody I reached out to denied, said no, because the other person was not comfortable with themselves. And I'm just like, wow, this whole idea of filming brought something up. And then somehow masculine and feminine energy came up. And so then I went back to those same couples and I said, do you think that men have both masculine and feminine energy? And the majority of the men said, no, I'm not a feminine. I'm just like, I'm not asking you, are you a feminine? I'm asking you, do we both have masculine and feminine energy? And most of them said no. So then somehow I remember something Tony Robbins said, and I couldn't remember. So I went on YouTube, and he there it is. Like, he's talking about, there is this energy and all of us have it, whether you know it or deny it or not, that there is a clear masculine and feminine energy within all of us. And it is important to understand that masculine and feminine energy when it comes to relationship, because then you know how to work back and forth. It doesn't matter gay or straight, whatever your preference is, we all have this energy, and it's important to know when one person is in that energy, and you need to back off, because two masculine energies causes problems, or two feminine energies causes problems. You have to learn how to know when one is active than the other. And when you brought this up as well, Tony Robbins has a test that you can do on his website. And I was just like, wow, you can find out your particular energy, and so you can know how to navigate within relationships.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. Like, I love how you said about how when there's two dominant masculine energies together, things just fall apart.
Right.
If there's this constant fight for power. There's this constant ego battle. Right. There's competition. Yeah. There's distrust. He's going to try me. And I've seen I've seen relationships like that. And then when there's two feminines together, there's this nobody wants to speak up.
Right.
Everyone kind of just quiet. There's not really any decision that's ever made. There's kind of just, well, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. You go first. No, I like to be supported. Well, I want to be supported. It's just this. Yeah. And when you ask that question, do we have both? I'm a firm believer, now that we do have both. Like I was mentioning earlier, I have a life coaching practice. And in my life coaching practice, I find myself talking to guys, and in the initial part, of course, it's the guy, we're talking business and all of that, work hard, and it gets more and more feminine. It gets more and more about what does it look like to have emotions? How are you feeling about things? And this is what surprises me. I meet a lot of guys, and the guys I talk to and I coach, they open up sooner or later, but I meet women who are more masculine and more closed off than the guys.
Wow.
And there's this wall up, and that wall would not let anyone in.
Yeah, wow.
And there was actually a lady I was coaching yesterday, and in her entire mind, she was I have to achieve this, and then I'll be happy. She used the phrase, I have to get to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, that's set up for failure right there, buddy. Because that's a never-ending journey. She's never going to be happy. Keep chasing that carrot.
Exactly. And we went deep in that. I'm like, so why are you chasing a light at the end of the tunnel? What does it look like just to create that light right now?
Right. Yes.
Can you create a lantern right now to where it's no longer the light at the end of the tunnel? You're just walking through a well-lit room. And she was just like, but I have to achieve. I have to win. And mind you that she was also saying before that she's extremely unhappy. She's had thoughts of just ending it all, just running away. Wow. She's dealing with anxiety. And the question that I asked her, I was like, what would it look like in your life to prioritize happiness over achievement?
People, I know this is the year apparent of awareness with that, especially with women, there was, I can't remember who I learned this from. It was Oprah. And she said, she started on this sort of self journey talk, and it was actually it was in her podcast. If you haven't heard this podcast, it's called The Making of Oprah. It comes up in this podcast where she told a woman, like, why don't you put your happiness first instead of in this man? And the audience went nuts. Yeah. What do you mean? You got to put this man first. You got to do this. You can't put your needs first. It's like, she was like, no, I'm not saying that. She was like, because if you aren't happy with who you are and what you're capable of doing, how can you give to someone else when you are a mess? You are unhappy. You are trauma. You're in this sort of trauma state. Like, you can't fully give yourself your love when you're you're depleted. Like, I think maybe you said it. It's like, oh no, I was listening to a podcast yesterday where he was like saying that where two people come together and they both like pouring themselves into empty buckets, like the bucket has a hole in it. So they're like giving and giving and giving and giving, and they're both giving to buckets that has a hole in it, and then nobody's filled up because they don't even know how to fill up their own love bucket.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And that's the paradox of the masculine and feminine together. If there's two masculines together, whose love bucket is getting filled?
Right.
The masculine's love bucket is filled by the feminine. The feminine's love bucket is filled by the masculine energy. So if you have two people in a relationship together and they're both masculine and both feminine, there's this they'll say something along the lines of, you've changed, or I'm not happy, or something's missing. And there's other things, but it's just there's love buckets. Like feminine energy, love bucket is usually filled by attention, undivided attention, care. Like, I was just talking to someone about this, about how when it comes to the feminine energy, if you go there and go out and buy them a house, okay, you can go say, I bought you a whole house and all of this stuff. Yeah, that's 1 point for one day. Like, or if you go and buy them a box of chocolates, or if you take them out to dinner, it's still a point for one day. You can't do one grand thing and say, remember I bought you a house 2 years ago? You should still be good off of that.
Yeah, well then that's the ego right there.
So with the feminine energy, it takes a consistency. Yeah. Attention, consistency, and that's what it takes. And then when it comes to the masculine energy, just words of affirmation. You're doing a good job. Appreciation is a huge thing for the masculine energy. Like, people that are very masculine tend to do things that are a little bit more achievement based, a little bit more get things done, a little bit more just do it. And without appreciation, it's like, why am I even doing it? They don't even appreciate it.
Right. I was listening to a podcast today on this topic, and the guy was just doctor. He was saying, well, we all have yin and yang inside of us. He said, if you look at a picture of the yin and yang, one side represents masculinity and one side represents femininity, and you see within each part the masculine energy. Let's say the black side, there's a small part of that still has white that fills in that masculine part. And on the other side, the same thing. The white part still has that small dot, which is the masculine energy that fills within. They both all have some part of each other inside each other, and they both need each other to complement each other. And I'm going to read you what Tony Robbins says. He says, feminine energy is always feeling and always seeing everything, while the masculine energy is focused on one singular task or issue at hand. The feminine is consistent with multitasking, processing everything at once. The right and left parts of the brain are active at all times, and there is an extreme power in this. And he says the masculine energy focuses on one task at a time. And when the masculine energy sees and conquers a problem, the sole goal is to find a solution. Masculine energy is analytical, impatient, assertive, logical, while the feminine energy is as in being the masculine energy. I just love this whole stuff. Like, and it's about, the masculine energy is about moving in purpose, taking on action. Like, it wants to hunt, and it's the hunting and gathering, the thing. And I was ready when I was reading this. I was like, wow, like this is also like in nature, like, because a lot of like men love to like, reference nature and stuff like that. And I was like, well, let me just like look for myself. So, okay, if I look at the lion, like both lions, they both have it. Like you've seen so many pictures of a male lion, like sometimes sitting there with the kids, like, taking care of the cubs while the female is out hunting and gathering, or vice versa. So you see this balance of masculine and feminine and masculine energy in nature. So, I mean, it's no brainer that we do have it ourselves.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. You see it. You're saying that you see it in nature.
Sure. Yeah.
And of course, we as human beings are a part of nature.
Nature, right?
and what I really like to resolve is the issues of between couples that are dealing with the masculine and feminine, and they're really unbalanced. First things first, okay? So for the men that's watching this, just to put this up, actually put this up. I'm not gonna say the men. I'm gonna say the masculine energy, because there's some women that inherit more masculine energy than I do,
right?
And I'm a masculine man. So for the masculine energy that out there, tend to be men, but could be women as well, is the feminine energy is attracted to when you show your vulnerable side.
Right.
So many masculines energies believe that if they achieve, I once met a guy who said, I don't have my dream wife yet because I don't have the perfect career yet.
Right.
I don't, my income
Another
level,
trap.
My income level have to be here for me to meet that perfect woman.
Yeah.
It's not our income level. It's our compassion level. It's our vulnerability level. One of the best compliments I received was my entire life, like especially before the summer. I'm a very alpha male. Like when there's any position, I expect to be the leader. That's just how I was bred to be, and I've always been this my entire life. I was at this little transformational seminar, and in this seminar, I was getting in touch with my feminine side. I was doing processes. I was doing things with my mom, like all things to get in touch with my feminine side. And the 70-year-old lady came to me, and she said, Alan, all of the men here are trying to get to this super, more confident, get more strong and dominance. But she's like, honestly, Alan, like, I really admire you a lot, because I can see that you've already played that game. You already beat that game. And you're bringing out the kind, sweet side.
Yeah.
And she said, that's what wows me the most, is that kind, that sweet, that tender side. And so the masculine energy believes that by conquering the world, that they'll attract the perfect mate. But it's not even conquering the world. It's conquering our heart in a space that we can share it openly.
Yeah.
And that's what attracts that perfect mate.
Right. And I was watching the Impact Theory with Tom Willow. He has a whole a little mini series on masculine and feminine energy, and he brings his wife on, and he was like, I definitely have more feminine energy than masculine energy, and she was like, she was like, she has more masculine energy than he does, because he said, she's like go getter, she's always in the gym, and she's like, let's go, let's drive. He's like, no, I'm just like gonna sit here and talk this, and it works out for the both of us. But it's, it takes, I think, men a while to really get that. And when you get it, it's like gold. And I just finished reading the Pussy book, and she talks about women balancing this energy with inside, and also like tapping into that, because that's what men want, or tapping into that feminine energy and using that to get what they want. And also talks about men. And I had a had a podcast with a coach, and she was like, her boyfriend, now fiance, he was doing all these workshops with Mama Gina, who's the creator of the Pussy book, and he was really tapping into his feminine energy. And she said, honestly, Jimmy, when I met him, like, he was the most sensitive guy that I ever met. That's what made me fall in love with him. But on the flip side, like, he's a go-getter. Like, he turns that on, that like male thing, it drives me crazy. But also because he understands the feminine side so much that I'll send him a text and I'm on my way home. When I come home, he already has a bath for me. He has these things for me. He sits there. He's like, giving me a massage. Like he knows, he taps into the soft side, and he knows when to turn it on and turn it off. And when and she's like, because I'm very masculine, and because she's a very go-getter, she said, but I know when I see him and he's in that feminine space, it actually calms me down, and that where we can just be together without like this combative attention sinking thing. Like he understands me. And I was like, wow, like really understanding this this energy when one is on and one is not, or vice versa, then you really do have power. You really do have something to create in your relationship. And this is, for me, I think it's like really gold that men can really learn to tap into that. It's not saying you're like being gay or being like you know, like feminine qualities, you know. It's just an energy of giving and receiving type of energy that if you tap into, even in the workplace, that you can really, you know, grow and expand.